I want to know why I hear people talk about how sometimes when they're in like an emergency situation, their brain slows down and everything seems like it's in slow motion. What's up with that? Why does it seem like time slows down in emergencies? I'm going to start trying to copy and paste links into my notes. That way I can find my sources more easily. Roller coasters and amusement parks don't make time warp. Geez, okay, so in an effort to induce the time slowdown effect, the researchers were having them jump backwards into a special net off a 150-foot drop where they're reaching 70 miles per hour. Um, First of all, that sounds terrifying. Second of all, with these net situations and jumping backwards, I'm always terrified I'm going to land on my head and my neck is going to go like crunch. But that's just me. So they wanted to see if their like perception of time actually does speed up. So they attached a watch to a fancy watch, perceptual chronometer, to their wrist. So as they're falling, they could look at it, and the numbers are going too fast to see with your regular non-scared brain. So the theory is that if you're falling and time is actually slowing down, you'll be able to see the numbers on the watch that are going faster than you can normally see them. Did it work though? It did not. They could not read the numbers. How the heck do you spell experiment? Could be that our ancestors developed aid to survive because if you can slow down your perceptions of time, that increases your survival rate in emergency situations. Maybe? I just had a crazy thought. What if you could do this, like trigger this automatically for like important moments in your life, like birthday parties or the birth of your child or your wedding or something? That would be kind of crazy. Time slowing is a function of recollection, not perception. He's thinking it might not actually be happening in the moment. It might be like after the fact and you're remembering the moment. It may seem like the time was stretching when it actually wasn't in your brain. Because time's obviously not actually stretching, but in your brain, is your brain slowing down in the moment? So he's theorizing that we're able to absorb more impressions during the time that we are in that scary moment. What's another word for being in the zone? Flow state. So he's likening the slowdown time effect as like he's comparing it to when athletes are like really in the groove, in the zone, or like if you're in the state of deep meditation, or if you're under the influence. He's basically saying that there's a lot of different states that the brain can go into as like a altered state of consciousness, and this is maybe an example of one of those states. Okay, sir. All right, what did I learn from this article? So one thing to mention is that even if you don't really feel like this is a thing, like no, people aren't actually having time slow down. It's pretty well documented. So like I think enough people have experienced this sensation or this thing to make me feel like it's like actually a thing. It's not something that people are just making up. But is it actually useful or beneficial? That is TBD. Yeah, I think we can all agree that it's more your perception of time than the actual time. I mean, obviously time is not slowing up for you personally, but how you perceive time. So, and there's lots of different examples of, or like situations in which that might happen, like new situations, new environments, when things you're unfamiliar with, or if you're bored, or if there's too much going on in your brain, too much going on around you in the environment. This article likes to call them time expansion experiences, or TEAS for short. Are you teasing me with that? I'm not going to write that down. Dude, I'm sorry, I cannot take you seriously. 85% of people have had at least one T. Come on, man. Find a better acronym. Yeah, I'm going to have a seriously difficult time reading this article if he just keeps using the word TEAS over and over again. So there... Let me read a little bit further, but this person seems like they're making the case that people actually do have the time in the moment to make decisions and change what they're going to do, like this woman who avoided a metal barrier falling on herself, or people in sports who are playing like hockey and they have more time to take the winning shot or something, which I feel like is kind of contradictory to what we were just reading about how it's actually the perception of time after the fact where your brain is kind of playing catch up. Let's see what he says throughout the article though. He's saying that the theory is that it's linked to noradrenaline. Will we not have data to back this up? Can we not look at people's brains and see if this chemical was released? This neurotransmitter was released? How credible is this source? The Conversation. It was posted in Scientific America, but it's a link to this article from The Conversation. What website even is this? He's saying that the noradrenaline theory is just a theory because a lot of the time these time dilation events occur in peaceful situations, which kind of makes sense. I'm gonna have to look into this more and get back to you. I'll be back later today to let you know what I found. And I'm back. It is later in the day, and let's look at what I found. It's been a few hours, so I might need to refresh my brain. Are there any other... So some questions I had immediately after stopping the filming process were, they did the experiment where they threw people off the platform with a net underneath them. I don't know if they threw them necessarily, but were there any other experiments that were done to kind of test this thing out? And then I watched a quick video by Be Smart, I think, that talked about like the differences in ages and how some time goes faster for old people and how it goes slower for young people, because young people are like, everything is new to them, and so they're experiencing everything for the first time, and that's why time goes slowly for them. For adults, adults have already done everything and experienced all of like the regular mundane things of life, so that's why regular mundane life seems to fly by. But my brain was not popping, so I needed a little more, so I read some other stuff. This is what I started with. This article in Psychology Today was interesting. They were mainly referencing these other studies that have been done. I believe it was this link here, and then another link later on, which this link said that they could learn how to do the slow time perception. Like you could build that as a skill, which I thought was super interesting. I didn't have time to read the general commentary, but that would be cool to know. Although we'll get into why maybe not. Also, people kept referencing this as time dilation, which I kind of take issue with. I feel like time dilation is in reference to like the theory of gravity and things, and this is not time dilation, because in no way, shape, or form is this messing with time. Actually, it's like perception of time, but not even. It's like your perceived memory of perceived time. So I don't know. Anyways, in this experiment that they were doing, they were putting up images on the screen. For example, they put up a dot on the screen and then like hooked them up to an fMRI machine, and then they had the dot seem like it was moving towards the person, and like it made it seem like there was a collision course with the dot and the person. And I mean, it was a very slight amount, but they said that this was like a threatening, this image of the dot coming closer felt threatening to the people, and so that kind of triggered the slow time response. Another thing they did was they just put up scary images on the screen, like large spiders or plane crashes or erratic pictures, and those also seem to trigger. Then it's not like the slow time response, but I lost my train of thought. Oh, they just felt like the things were on the screen for longer than the other non-scary things. So like you show them a picture of a car and then you show them a picture of a spider for the same length of time, it seems like the spider is on the screen for the longer duration, even though they were on the screen for the same length of time. That part I feel like I can get on board with. The dots moving closer to people and them feeling threatening feels a little thin to me. But so this article here is where they referenced using the fMRI machine, and they talk here in this article about how it's like talking about cognitive control and subjective awareness. It's basically like the part of your brain that's being lit up when the time is slowing down is the part that's like the cognitive control and subjective awareness part of your brain, which was kind of cool, I guess. This Psychology Today article at the very end, they were thinking it might be cool to have some more experiments, which I was like, yeah, that would be nice, but they were thinking that virtual reality might be a beneficial way to test this in a ethical way, which is probably a good idea. That could be cool. And if you're curious about the actual study of people falling into nets, it's right here. This is the one, people falling into nets. So here they have the whatever fancy watch. I don't remember what it was called. And here's the net and the people falling into it. So yeah, if you're curious, it's this one. So right after I was recording earlier, I watched a video, and they were talking about like different cultures' perceptions of time, which I thought was pretty cool. Which like in the US, our culture perceives time as like our physical locations in time. Like the past is behind us and the future is in front of us. Which, as he was saying that, I was like, in my brain, the past is to the left and the future is to the right. So, but I mean, it kind of just demonstrates what he was talking about, because different cultures view it differently. So for us in the West, the past is behind and the future is in the front. Care to take a guess as to what the other cultures might be, or how they might view it? You guessed it, maybe. So some cultures think that the past is below you and the future is above you. Some cultures feel like the past is downhill and the future is uphill, and some use their like perception of like past or like time-based things follows the chronology of the sun. So the past would probably be like early morning and the future would be later in the day, in theory. I didn't really get into that one that much. Yeah. So another thing that I was like really curious about as I was doing this is that time speeds up and slows down for everybody. This is like a very normal, I don't know about well understood, but this happens to everyone. Like if you've ever been in a flow state or if you've ever been enjoying a task and you're like, oh my God, that was an hour. Where did the time go? Or if you've ever been bored and you're like sitting there in the doctor's office and it's been 15 minutes and it feels like a year. Or if you really have to pee, the bus ride is just taking like 17 years. You know what I'm talking about. So like my theory, there's a whole bunch of like not being able to answer this question because it doesn't seem like, first of all, I couldn't find that many different sources that were talking about this. It doesn't really seem like a very many people are curious about this phenomena. And also the research that was there was very, I don't know. I didn't want to get like read these giant articles, but all of the other information was very surface level. So my thought was that basically the like slow down time perception of getting into a car accident or whatever, falling into a net is just like the normal time dilation, timey-wimey thing on steroids. So like if you are bored, time goes slowly. If you're excited, time goes quickly. But then this is where I ran into a problem because like if you're excited, time is moving quickly. But then if you're in danger, time slows down. So it's kind of like I messed up somewhere. Anyways, so I moved on, and then this article here wasn't talking about anything super new. I think this one was talking about basically the same thing, but it seems like pretty much everyone is in agreement that the passage of time, the perception of time slowing down is all like retroactive. Like in the moment, you're not actually seeing that many different things. You're not getting new information or more information. It's all after the fact. Well, I guess so. I guess you would be getting more information in the moment, but it's like you can't actually use that information until after the fact. So people who are saying that they like got not super strength, people who are saying that they were like able to dodge out of the way of falling beams or like play better in sports or do all that stuff are maybe not making it up, but they're probably not correct. So one thing I found was that the amygdala might be the culprit of this. And I think I learned in a recent video that the amygdala is the part of the brain that is implicated in fear, and it's highly active and affects the way memories are made. So the amygdala is kind of like controlling, is what we use when we're seeing and hearing things and helps us to understand whether or not that thing that we're touching or seeing is bad news bears or is actually something that is not going to kill us. So the amygdala is what is like going into activation, what is activated when you're in a dangerous situation, and the amygdala is what is slowing down time for the people, in theory. I couldn't really find anything about how it's doing that, but if you're curious, the amygdala. And this article here is just measuring people's response to scary faces and how the amygdala responds to that. Also, random side note, everybody kept misquoting the study about the people falling into the net. It was like some people were like, it was 50 meters, and some people were like, it was 30 meters, and some people said it was 70 meters, and they were going this fast. Pretty much all of them got it wrong, which I thought was suspect. Anyways, I think that's the end of this video. Have a good one. Peace.